Before heading to the video, if you haven't subscribed the channel, do subscribe it and don't forget to click the bell icon for the latest update notification. If you like the video, do like, comment and share. Stay tuned with learnbay.co. Happy learning!
To do next is I'm going to talk about the importance of visualization. You all know that, okay? And then next we are going to see what are the different types of plots or charts that we will be using in our exploratory data analysis. Okay, you all know those things. Okay, so bear with me. Okay, so can someone tell me why is data visualization so important thing to consider in data science?
So when you operate with the data, you need to present with some certain group of audience, maybe executive people or the end user, and people have to take the decision from the data. So until and unless you don't visualize the data, how would you take the decision from the data? Maybe in terms of comparison, trend analysis, whatever. But you need to take the decision from the visualization only.
Yeah, that's correct. Anyone else?
It will make easy to understand anyone who doesn't know what is the numbers are happening. It gives a clear picture about what is the trend is going on if we present in the visual.
Right. You're right. So, okay. So what happens is, okay, I'll tell you guys one thing. Okay. For
We can
example,
also say that it's always, I mean, when we deal with numbers, the other person might not understand what does the number mean. So it is easy for them to know if it is in the form of visualization.
yes, that is a very good point. Okay, that Daniel make. Okay, so I'll tell you guys one kind of, you can say, observation. Okay, that you might be knowing. Okay, so see, data science is a kind of analytics we do. And by the way, analytics is coming out from 1900s. Okay, if not late. Probability and stats are even, goes to centuries back. You understand? So we are not the only people who are doing it, and not for the very first time. Okay, even in analytics. Okay, so it usually starts with you can say people used to do stats with their hands. Okay, with their hands they used to do. Okay, and then they used to summarize it for the people or for the business that they were representing. Okay, now usually, for example, if I go back to the time when when the industries were new, okay, and then there were very less tools available, so balance sheets and all those things were looked upon by some mathematician, where they used to see what are the productions going on. So they usually made charts, tables, and then they used to calculate different things that we are going to study next. But this is what they used to do. Okay, 100 200 years ago. After that, okay, this went on for a long time. After that, after considerable amount of time, until recently, okay, when you can say Excel came into existence. Okay, even before that, okay, before that people started doing with SAS. Okay, so SAS tool, I think, developed before even MS Excel came into existence. So people who were statistical analysts, they were using SAS tool. Okay, I have used, even SAS is used today also. Okay, but it is kind of becoming non-existent with the increase in the people using Python and R. Okay, so SAS started, SAS was used earlier. Okay, after that, I'm not sure about these two timings, but I'm just giving you a picture. Okay, how the things evolved. Okay, so MS Excel, Microsoft Excel came into existence. That made multiple things possible. So computation becomes easy, and new types of things were added, formula and charts and all these things. Okay, after that, R came into existence. So R was R, all you know, is programming language, which was earlier used to do only statistical calculations, and it is still, I think, by far the best statistical tool that came into existence. SAS and R both. Okay, Python is trying to compete, but If you only talk about statistics, okay, not about machine learning, then obviously R is a better tool. Okay, hands down. So after that R, even the Excel evolved. Excel evolved to a, Excel evolved. Now you can even do machine learning using Excel. Okay, so you can do linear regression just by a click of of your fingers, right? Now these things evolved. After that we have Python. Okay, Python, Matplotlib, Seaborn, just mentioned. Okay, post that we have dashboarding tools. Okay, dashboarding tools, Tableau, Power BI. Okay, and it is again evolving. Okay, so all these things are evolving, all the things are existent. Even SAS is there, Excel is there, R is also used to visualize things. Okay, visualize things also. Okay, ggplot, you have ggplot2, you have all these things. Okay, so Excel is also evolving. Then you have Python is also acquiring few of the new visualization libraries. Similarly, dashboards, Tableau, Power BI, and even people are using Vue.js. Okay, all other JavaScript and all these things to visualize things. Okay, now you see these evolution only suggest us that we were, even from the starting till now, we had this task that we had to explain whatever statistics, whatever analysis, or whatever modeling we are doing on our data. We had to explain it to someone. Are you guys understanding what I'm trying to say?
Yes.
Okay, so whenever we were going to explain it to someone, so explaining to a data scientist, okay, data scientist, and explaining to a non-data scientist is totally different. Okay, so for example, if you have to explain to a data scientist, you can talk in these terms. What is, I got this variable, I did find out a few of the descriptive stats, and in fact all these things. Okay, but just imagine if someone is a non-data scientist and he is the person who handles a big company, and he is from the client side. How will you explain it to them? Okay, how will you explain the numbers? The best way to explain the numbers is to use plots or charts. Yes or no? That is the reason, even from the starting of the existence, whenever we started doing calculation, if we had to explain, in mathematics we have studied pie charts. Okay, then we have studied bar charts, then we have studied histograms, right? We have studied histograms. All these things we have studied. Yes or no? Even in our childhood. So that means it is important. Okay, so how will you explain to a non-data scientist? They will not understand your numbers, but they will understand these plots. Okay, these plots they will understand. So in order to make them understand, we will not throw numbers at them. What we will do is we will show them charts. Okay, good charts. So that that makes data visualization very important for us. Is it understood?
Yes.
Okay. Now going ahead, all of you know at one point or another, most of these things you have already plotted, but then again I'm revising. If not, then in course of time, we will be seeing what all things we can plot. Okay. So assuming that you all have done that, what is a line chart? Can someone define what is a line chart? Or why we use line chart?
Trending, example share market.
Yes. So you're okay, define it in a way that you are in an interview situation.
So aggregation of a data over a period of time.
Aggregation of data over a period of time, no. That you are defining scatter plots.
No, scatter plot is the relationship of the two measures, two variable.
No, over a period of time, if I only put the data points, okay, if I'm whatever you said, the scatter plot can satisfy. I'm not saying that line chart is not satisfying, but scatter plot can also satisfy. Yes or no?
Yeah, but when it's an interval or over time period is
Yeah. So time period you have to tell, right? So for
Yeah.
example, you are seeing, change in a particular quantity over a period of time, then usually line chart is used to display that. This should be
So
your
example will be the flat prices in this area over a
stock
period
market
of
price.
time.
Yes, yes, absolutely correct. Anyone else wants to add to what they're saying?
I would say it is a graphical representation of the data to show how the data has been trending. Is why we use a line chart.
Yes, yes. That is also one of the definition. Correct. Who else?
Maybe variation of data over the period of time.
Variation of data over the period of time.
Yeah.
Variation of not the data varies with time, that is fine, but you have to pick one quantity and that quantity's variation you are seeing. Correct. For example, you are not considering, you are considering
Yeah,
one share
got it.
and then you are seeing the variation of that share over period of time. Is it clear
Variation
now?
of variable or feature?
Yeah, yeah,
Can we
yeah.
say?
We can say that how one variable is varying with respect to another variable over the time period.
With respect to another variable over the period of time, then
Like x is x axis is having like the year of house built, and y axis is having like the price over the time, like how it is like varying the price.
okay, now you are correct, but earlier you said that variation of one variable with respect to another variable along time is what you said, right?
It's like a relation between two variables with respect to time, how they are varying.
Between no, so we have to pick one quantity. See, if there are two variables and then there is time, then you cannot, I think you cannot do it with one single line chart. Yes or no? You understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, got it.
Because there now you are considering three different variables. Time is one variable and then you are comparing two variables, so altogether three. You understand? So I'm talking about plain line chart. Okay, you all know, correct? Can we go ahead? What is a pie chart?
Pie chart would be a graphical representation if you want to do a percentage or a proposition value.
Correct. So see, this is the right way to answer. So whenever you are going to discuss any chart or to tell, if someone asks you why you use that, you have to tell the usability also, the way he has mentioned. Okay, so whenever we are going to see the percentage, okay, whenever we are going to see the percentage or change or anything, okay, so that way we use pie chart. Okay, so overall, say 100% quantities there, and then different types of quantities that we are considering. Okay, for example, if we are considering, say, what example can I give? Okay, for example, if I was living in a hostel, there are 4 different hostels. Now I want to consider how many series or how many, you can say, tournaments each particular hostel has won in percentage. Okay, so there would be, say for example, 100%, and then you can think about, if there are 4 hostels, then we can divide the percentage into 4 parts. Okay, all add up to 100. Those quantities can be represented as pie chart. Okay, is it understood? Now, okay, I wanted to show you guys something. Just give me a second. Okay.
Dhruv, can we also say that pie chart can also be used for the representative to show how the different categories are subdivided over be it a percentage or be it on a particular value, scale down onto some values?
Percentage scale down.
No, I'm talking about be it percentage or be it some value which is scaled down to some particular fixed value, and then we are comparing the different categories so as to how it is distributed over a period. I mean, wide varieties.
Mm, if you see what you are saying is partially correct, because you are not mentioning if you know all the quantities inside that. Okay, so we have to think that the pie chart, all the sum of all these things should be 1 if you are considering fraction, and if you are considering in percentage, then the sum of all these things should be 100%. Okay, you cannot have only 2 quantities and you cannot plot it in pie chart. Even if you
Yeah.
are doing that, you have to make one category called others, or you don't know, and then assign the rest of the area, or you can say that particular segment to that particular don't know or anything like that. You understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes, Dhruv. I mean, I was just talking about that. Like, suppose for an example that you take a value 1000. So out of 1000, how many uh, populations are distributed over a particular locality? So
Yes,
comparing over a fixed value, you're just trying to categorize them
yes,
across a
yes,
range.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Correct,
Okay.
correct. So that is precisely I'm going to show. Okay, so back in May 2000, okay, so uh, May this year, I created this project, COVID-19 project. Okay, so just showing you the pie chart. Okay, so what I did is, for example, when I plotted for percentage of confirmed cases as on 17th May. Okay, I did in May 17th, 18th, I guess. Okay, so it's 2-3 months old now. What happened is, whenever I plotted the pie chart for the countries, the number of countries are 140 plus, so it was not visible. Okay, so it was not visible up to a certain limit. Okay, so what I did is, I just you can say I just limited it to 30 countries. Okay, in that way you can see at least the name, otherwise it was getting cluttered. Okay, now you at least see some percentage are missing, but if I increase, you would be able to see, right? Correct. So in that way it started. Okay, so that time US was the highest, Russia, and then UK, Brazil, Spain, all these things. Okay, so in descending order I did, and then I plotted. So this is the way you can do. You understand? So pie chart is used to show any percentage if you want to showcase, and even if you don't have percentage, you can convert it and then plot it in a pie chart. Okay.
Yeah.
Hello.
For line, yes, for line chart, should it always be time, or it can? I mean, x-axis can be one variable and y can be
No,
another
no,
variable.
no. It is not always time. Okay. Like you see, at last the chart type should be as a line. Okay, that is the reason it is called a line chart. Okay. The example most of the people give is with time. Okay.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. So that was about pie chart. Can someone tell me what is the difference between a bar graph and histogram? We are going to talk next to give you the prerequisite. So can someone tell me what is difference between a bar graph and a histogram?
Histogram is a distribution or frequency of a for a variable or measure for a particular bean. So if we talk about the age group, so from 10 to 20, how much a product, suppose we talk about the sales of a product, then from age 10 to 20, how it distributed, 20 to 30, 30 to 40, that is a histogram. And bar graph is a categorical view of dimension wise, categorical view of a variable. So so there are 3 products, suppose 1, 2, and 3, A, B, or C. So what is the sale amount for that A and B and C? So that we can show with the bar graph, categorical of a variable.
Correct, 100%. So and
So
another.
bar.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So bar chart is for categorical and histogram is for continuous variables.
Yes, that is also one of the
And
differences.
will it be good to say like bar graph will not be like histogram will always be in continuity like in bar,
X-axis?
yeah, in
Yes,
x-axis, and
yes.
in that will not be in the case of bar graph.
But why? Can you define why you made this statement?
So means bar graph we can basically have in categories of data 3-4 variables we can take, and we can do that. But in histogram I think it will be a single variable which
Continuous.
can be done in,
Continuous, you mean to say,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay. Yes, you are right. 100% right. Okay. Anyone else wants to come?
Is histogram always one variable only, or
Histogram. Okay. Yes, because we usually see the distribution of variable.
No, histogram cannot be one variable. So beans is a bean. We can consider bean is as a variable, and another is the measure. So what you are doing, like some sell some product.
No. He wants to say, Daniel wants to say that in histogram, we consider, say, for example, the frequency, right? So frequency over a particular, you can say, what you can say, different intervals, right? A frequency at a different intervals, correct? So you
what I
cannot
meant to say is we can represent only one variable in a histogram
at one time.
at one
right?
time. Yeah.
Yeah, basically we use histogram graphs for to show variables and bar graph to show comparison.
Not always. Not always. Not always. See, here we have multiple, stacked bar. That is the reason we are saying comparison. Even one variable I can put it here. Just that it will first of all be categorical, and second thing, it is going to be we are going to see the distribution. How is it going to be? Okay. Sorry. What I mean to say is, for example, first of all, it is categorical, and not always I can say, can someone correct me if I'm wrong, that bar chart are not always used for comparison. Mostly it is used for comparison.
I
yes,
strongly
but
feel
I can,
that bar graph is always used to compare or to see how is the values been changed. Like what's the difference between January and February?
In that way, yes, you're right. Even if you are considering one variable, you can say comparison between two, say, 2 quarters, right? This is what you mean?
Yes, correct. Comparison between 2 quarters, 2
Yes.
months, 2 days, anything.
Yes. That comparison is there, not always within variables, because we can have one variable segment. Okay, like one kind of category only present as a bar. Okay, here why I gave this statement is because here we have stacked. Okay, so there are kind of 4 things we are considering at once. Okay, not always we will have 4, it can have 1 also. Okay, so in that way we are not comparing with another variable, but yes, within one variable you can say comparison of different quarters or different time periods or different whatever. So at different instant, if you are comparing those things, yes, their comparison is involved. But some people may say it is a comparison, some people may say it is a, you can say, same quantity variation over a period of time. Is it clear, Daniel?
Yes, Dhruv, it's clear.
Okay, so enough about bar chart and histogram. I'm just giving you guys a snapshot. You all know these things. I hope all these things you have plotted by your hands in Python.
Yes, Dhruv. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, then tell me what is the use of scatter plot?
Okay. According to the Python definition, or based on the Python, what I got to know is like scatter plots is the graph where we can find outliers.
Yes, that is the use of scatter plot. Yes, you are right. One of the use cases of scatter plot.
Find out it shows the distribution of the data.
Distribution of data, yes. how data is distributed. Yes.
Yeah, it also identifies whether the data is linear or non-linear.
Yes. And
Yeah,
whenever we plot, yes, please go ahead.
yeah, so can we also say that it is basically used to depict the comparison or the how the variables are changing across the time? I mean, I'm basically talking about the changes.
Mm, variables are changing.
I mean, comparison. I mean, how is it related to each other? I mean, the variables, how is they are
No,
related to
see,
each other?
okay. The reason why I'll cut you here is because, for example, if you consider one point, okay, just consider about this. This is a bit small. Okay, so whenever you are going to talk about how this particular data point changed over a period of time, or for example, what is the change of one particular variable, how you are defining, we cannot say that. Okay, in line chart there is the trend that we can see, but in scatter, can we see the trend? Right, we can only see the relationship. If it is positive or negative, it is decreasing, right? That is possible, but change, if you are saying, we cannot see from at least the scatter plot.
I'm
Yeah,
talking
so
about the change related with respect to another variable. I mean, how is it varying?
how is it varying? Yes, positive or negative? Yes, that is called, you can say yes, in a way.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
I mean
I mean, it
positive.
can be positive slope or negative slope based
Yes,
on the values it is
yes,
comparing it with the
yes,
corresponding
yes,
variables. Yeah.
yes, correct. That you can see from scatter plot. Okay,
Yes, Dhruv. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
Now
scatter plot also identifies groups.
also identify, yes, in using a scatter plot, you can use, you can build different groups of the
Yeah,
data.
yeah, different groups, we can identify them.
Yes, 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 perfectly fine. So whenever we will see clustering algorithms, we plot scatter plots and then see, build different types of clusters using that. Okay, and usually we color the points based on the clusters that we are choosing. Okay, and do you guys want me to take a section in which I will plot all these things, or you all know already these things?
It will be great if you can take it for some time, like just
Yeah, Dhruv,
overview
it will
sort of.
help if you take.
Using Python?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so probably I'll try in next week. We'll see how much we can do. Okay, I wanted to give it as an assignment to you guys, but you gave me as an assignment. So I'll cover it. I thought that I'll just revise these things for you. Okay, and clear some confusion, and we'll prepare you guys for any theoretical question that may come, because I was assuming that Matplotlib Seaborn is done, so you would be very proficient to use this, but no problem. We will do. Okay, we'll do it together.
Yeah, for us, Seaborn is not done. We had only Matplotlib.
Yeah, Dhruv.
Are you guys coming from two different classes, or how is it?
Yeah, I think it's from different batches.
Different
Okay,
matches.
okay. So
And different trainers.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah, we
Seaborn
were
is
from June batch actually.
okay. Okay, no problem. So I'll show you from very simple things. Okay, so usually I'll show you how to plot. Okay, okay, one more plot we have. Okay, I forgot to mention. We have one donut chart. Have you guys seen this type of donut shaped chart?
No.
No.
I'm not aware of this.
No, you are aware of this, but just that you have not used it in Python. You would have seen it
Yeah.
at some point of time.
Yeah. I have seen in like maybe while browsing news, but yeah, not used in my Python.
Okay, so I'll give you one very very interesting thing. Okay, so how do you plot a donut chart? Okay, so usually how the donut chart is plotted, you can go ahead and Google. Okay, so usually we have this pie chart. Okay, and we plot the pie chart first, and then we make a in circle with having the same center and then make it white. Okay, so that is how the donut chart is plotted, and that way it starts looking as donut chart. Then you will say, why is it used? First of all, it looks good. Okay, then pie chart. Okay, other thing is you can write some things like you can write the name of the plot that you are using here. Okay, so it is more about the display, or you can say cosmetic change, than the logical. Both the things are same, just the same thing. I mean, just the presentation is different.
Yeah, I would say it's just more advanced version of a pie chart and more easily viewable. Say for an example, if you want to say male and female versus gender data, something like that, or like in a population, how many are IT and non-IT, male and female. It's much easier to show over here. It's much on a visualization aspect. It's much easier. That's all.
But that is debatable. Why? Because see, I'm not sure if it is happening with you guys or not, but whenever I see a donut chart and with not so different, you can say this particular thing, then I usually get confused if this is bigger or this is bigger. This is how I perceive. Okay, so if you have the pie chart, you have more areas to look, and then more you can say decisions you can make, that if this area is bigger or this area is bigger.
Yeah, personally, if you ask me, even I'm not a big fan of donut chart. I've used in Excel formats, but the only thing is, like, when you have a very small data to represent, that is better on a donut chart compared to a pie chart. That's all.
Agreed. So it all depends upon your choice. Okay, so whoever is plotting it, it is your choice to make if you're going to plot a pie chart or a donut chart. Okay, this is just for your reference, I told. So whenever you are going to try making a donut chart, it is first of all you will have to build a pie chart. Okay, and then a donut chart. At least the last I checked. Okay, because I usually work in R and in Python also, so I am not very proficient. You can say I am not very much aware of the new advancement that is happening in any two. Okay, sometimes at some point of time I also worked in SAS. Okay, to be honest, I'm telling you, in the starting of my career, I was mostly working on these two, and then I switched to Python like 2 years ago. I'm not very much aware of these new advancements. You guys can tell me, because you recently have attended these sessions. Is there any? Okay, take it as assignment and build a donut chart for me without making a pie chart. I'm not aware of anything, but if you guys can make a donut chart without drawing a pie chart or without using this technique, then you can come to me. You have 1 week. How many of you are ready for this particular challenge?
We'll try.
Yeah, we'll try.
Is not it interesting that there is a chart that is defined, okay, as a donut chart, and we don't have a dedicated you can say dedicated way of drawing it. Okay, we have to build a pie chart first and then a donut chart. Why don't we simply display the pie chart? Okay, that is debatable, but yeah, you guys can try. Move next. So we have seen in a way about different types of chart and graphs, okay, that we will be using on demand basis. Whenever we require, based on our requirement, we would be using different types. So whenever we would be needing percentage distribution, then we would be using donut or pie chart, or or different variations of it. Similarly, line chart, scatter plot, or bar, or histogram for that matter. Okay, now yes, and all these graphs can be at least bar and histogram usually looks like this, but it can be vertical also, so you should not get confused. Okay, why is it vertical? Like, I mean horizontal, sorry, this is vertical, but it can be horizontal also. Okay, so that should not confuse you. Is it fine? Right?
Yeah.
Now let's see. I'm going to give you a bit detail about some properties of histogram. Some of you might be knowing, but it's very basic thing. Okay, so someone already have mentioned that in histogram what we do is we do kind of frequency distribution we show. Okay, so in x-axis you can say we have different one bin is for different interval. Okay, so one it is from 100 to 110, second bin is from 110 to 120 similarly, but it is continuous, you see, continuous. And this y-axis shows the frequency. Okay, what is the frequency of the occurrence of the people? So for example, if I'm talking about, if I'm taking the what do you say, let's say I'm talking about the weights of the, okay, weight is there, so weights of the students in attending this session. Okay, so what I can do is, obviously these is not the your weight in kg, so I'll take in lb. Okay, so let's take that these are the weights of the people that we are considering. So for example, there are 8 people. Okay, 8 people measuring in this particular range, 100 to 110 lb. Similarly, there are 16 people ranging from 110 to 120. So this is how histogram is represented. Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay. Now what happens is, okay, so there is one catch to it. Okay, this we have discussed that for a particular, you can say interval. Okay, this is the frequency. Okay, so if someone asks you on which axis do we denote the interval? Okay, so is it it is always going to be the axis on which your bins are standing, correct? I'm not saying x-axis. Why? Because usually you get confused when they show you this horizontal horizontal histograms, correct? You understand? Like this, if they show, then this particular axis will contain the your intervals, okay, or the quantity that you are measuring, and the other axis will show you the frequency. Is it understood?
Yeah.
Okay, this is a very basic thing that but then again, I'm just considering one thing, very important thing. I thought you guys might ask this question, but no one asked, so I'm taking myself. For example, you might be thinking, okay, let me choose another color of my pointer. Okay, so you might ask me, Dhruv, you have said that okay, let's go ahead and see. Let me ask you this question. For example, like I'm considering this particular histogram. Okay, now I told you that I'm considering the weights of the people who are in my class currently. Okay, now I have, let's assume I have there are 2 people with exact weight as 110. Okay, so 110 is the weight of 2 students, 110 lb is the weight of 2 students who are currently attending my session. Okay, now I have asked them all of the students their weights, and I got that exactly 110 is the weight of two students who are attending my class. Now you tell me, where will my 110 will come, whether it will come in this frequency or this frequency. You understand my question?
16.
Then
No, you have to give me a reason why you are saying so. You have to guess. Obviously, some people will say 8, some people will say 16. Only 2 is correct, but only 2 can happen, right? So you are telling me either 8 or 16. Then you will have to give me a reason. Okay, why you are saying so? Everyone understood what question I'm asking?
Yes. Yeah.
Because this is continuous, so this particular boundary, so if exact weight 110 or 120 at the border, if it comes, whether I'll consider this particular frequency in this particular bin or this particular bin.
Dhruv, I
16
think
bean, why? Because like, I mean, it is the second bean is starting from the 110 onwards.
But
I think
this
the
first bin
endpoint is exclusive. That's why we are not considering the first one, and the starting point is always inclusive. So that's why we are considering the second one.
yeah, so that is one of the answer. Yes, another answer was we are considering in you can say the second bin. Someone said that it is starting from 110. That is not the reason. Okay, it is ending. Okay, the first bin is ending at 110. Okay, so that doesn't mean that you leave here. Okay, it is just a thumb rule, or you can say convention, that we consider in the second thing. There is no logic behind this. Okay, because it is continuous, you cannot say this particular point belongs to the second bin. It also belongs to the first bin. You understand? That is the reason when we have the complete value, we generally leave the end point from the bin, right endpoint. Okay, so usually when I'm what that mean is, for example, if I'm talking about 100 to 110, okay, let me change the color. Okay, just the screen. Okay, so for example, if I'm talking about 100 to 110, so and if there is exact 110 value, I won't consider it here. Okay, that is just by convention. There is no, no logic to it, because if you will attach any logic that this particular point doesn't belong to the previous bin, that will be incorrect. Why? Because we are talking about continuous variable. Okay, so it is continuous. We cannot say it doesn't belong here. It is just by convention. Why convention? We had to solve this problem because we were confused. It may be taken here also and here also. So just by convention, since it is continuous and we have to construct a bin, that is the reason we don't consider the last point in the in this particular bin, right endpoint. That is convention. Okay, that is the reason every every extreme endpoint will come in the next bin. Is it clear?
Yeah, Prabhu, one question. Then what
Right.
about the
So
last
even for
bit,
the
which
range
is
also.
having
Sorry.
140 to 150?
Uh-huh.
So 150, will that follow in that last bin, or it will be like we are not going to consider 150?
Okay, so in that way, see, if first of all, you have to see the frequency distribution of when you have the data, you have to take the intervals containing all your data points. Okay, you cannot leave 150. Okay, now since 150 to 160 should be considered. Okay, so if exact 150 is there, okay, by convention we cannot consider it here, so that point is left. Now that you have to consider in 150 to 160. So you have to make one interval again in order to accumulate 150. Okay, you understand?
Yeah, got it. And one more question, Dhruv. So in the previous slide, so where you have given the frequencies, not this one, the below, next one. This one, previous. So here 2, 4, 6.
Voice is very less. I'm not able to understand the question.
Okay,
Voice is very less.
is it fine now? Hello.
You are talking about my voice or her voice?
No, her voice. Her
Okay.
voice is very low.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
can you hear me now?
Yeah, I'll repeat for you. No problem. Go ahead.
So my question is here that frequency 2468. So this is like a number of people, or like see here we have on a x-axis we have weight. So how many people, like if I take 110 and 8, so there are 8 people having weight as 110.
No.
Is that
Okay.
correct?
Okay. Wait. I'll tell you. So
Like
whenever we
weight.
are talking. Okay, so her question is, what is this particular 2468? Okay, so she has asked, she has one confusion, but ultimately she is trying to understand what is this particular thing. Okay, so I'm going to talk about, first of all, once I have collected the weights of you guys. Okay, so I have listed, okay, so the weight. So for example, I'm considering there are 50 people in the class, and I have seen that the weights are ranging from say 100 to, let's say, I'm keeping the same scale just for the ease of calculation. Okay, so 150. Okay, now I am dividing it into 5 bins. Okay, so 100 to 110, 110 to 150, or intervals you can say. Okay, so these intervals. Now any people who are all the people whose weight are within this limit, 100 to 110, excluding what? Excluding 110 in this particular bin. So for example, I'm considering there are 8 people who are measuring between 100 to 110. Okay, so that is the frequency of the people that are measuring in between this interval. So that is total number of people. Here we are considering the people. It may be any quantity. So frequency is nothing but how many people, how many, basically.
Yeah, got it. Yeah,
Got it?
so for we can say like 100 to 109 there are 8 people, and 110 to 119 16 people, like that.
Not 109. When you say, see, that there is some, you have to wait.
No, I am excluding 110 for the first bar.
Yeah, but even if you are excluding 110, you cannot say 109 because it is continuous. This particular value 0.9999 is also included in this.
Yeah, got it. Yeah.
Okay. Why? Because if it is so this is your 109. Okay, and then if you say 100 to 109. Okay. My PowerPoint got, okay. So say 100. Okay. 100 to 109 you are saying. Okay. Now you will start from 110. What happened to the point in between 109 to 110? There can be infinite points between these two. Okay. We cannot afford to miss that point. Why? Because the definition of histogram is it denotes the continuous variable. You understand?
Yeah, Dhruv, I got it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So that is by convention. So if someone asks you this question, just tell them that there is no rule that we have to leave it in the first. It doesn't belong there. No, there is no rule. Why? Because it is continuous. Okay. So continuity means each point has one location, but we have to construct the bin. That is by convention. This is what we are considering as a frequency we consider in the next bin. Okay. Understood? Now that was about frequency distribution. Now, histogram are also used to show the relative frequency. Okay, in I think class 6th or 7th, every color I'm considering in the next slide. Can get the same.
I have one question regarding histogram. Hello.
Yeah.
How do we decide? How do we decide the size of bins?
Okay. So see, usually the size of bin has a formula. Okay. So usually, but see, I don't want you to hold on for this. Why? Because it is based on your business, business use case also. For example, what is the granularity on which I want to analyze my data? You understand? For example, just now what I did is I took, the bin size as 100 to 110, as in 10, you can say 10 as a interval, right? But depending upon you can say depending upon how much data you have, you can change your bin size. The only constraint you have to see is the interval should be same across all the bins. Okay, you cannot consider 100 to 105 in the first bin and then 105 to 115 in the second bin. You understand?
Yeah, that is fine. I was just thinking that how do we decide that we have to take 100 to 110 or not 100 to 120 at once? I was just thinking that how do we decide that constant bin size? Do we have a formula for that that keeps on changing? You are saying that as per business requirement, it will keep on changing.
Yeah. So usually we consider around 5 to 15 or 20. Okay. But there is one formula, Sturge formula, if I'm that formula is used to depict the bin. Okay, so that is not what we have to study currently. Okay, so we don't need that. It is just for so see, when you go and try plotting the in Python, if you plot, they will themselves consider the right amount of bin. Okay, so for you. Okay, so if you want to change that, so what changes the bin? I told you, if I have only the 5 or say 10 points, okay, can I take 10 bins?
No, then we have to take lesser, means like 2 or 2 bin size, or maybe 3 for plotting 10 data points.
Yeah. So usually, see, there is one formula. I did not want to discuss that, but since you are asking, it involves log. So usually bin size, bin size is given as I'm failing to recall. It is around. I'm saying around. You can see that it is around 1 plus 3 times of log n. Okay. Now log n is the number of observation. Sorry, n is the number of observation. So this is one formula, Sturge's formula, which is used to calculate the bin. This is for the tabulation when we do there it is required. Okay, usually biostatisticians require that. We don't need these things. Okay, since you asked, I am telling you. Okay, but one thing you have to keep in mind, that the bin size should be efficient enough to accommodate our data points. If the number of data points is very large, you will take the bins in that way. Okay, another thing to keep in mind, that the interval should be same across all the all the bins. Okay, does that clear your doubt?
Yes, got it. Yeah.
Okay. Now, since we spoke about the frequency distribution as in histogram, okay, one more thing is done, that we usually change the frequency to relative frequency. Okay, and then we denote the histogram showing on y-axis or the another axis as relative frequency and not the frequency. Can anyone tell me the reason of it? Why do we need to do that, or why we usually do that? Think about it. But before that, okay, so before that, okay, how do we change to relative frequency? I have to show it to you. Okay.
Use the percentage instead of the actual values.
Yes, but why? Okay, so you have to give me a business reason, or you can say any reason why do we need this.
Frequency range can vary from it can be a larger range, so we can't plot on that particular axis.
Yes, that is a usability wise good reason. Okay, any other any other reason that you can think of?
Maybe it indicates proportion.
Yes, that is also one of the. So yeah, so all of you are giving right answers. So the reasons, the recent two reasons that people have listed, that is precisely the reason we usually convert frequency into relative frequency. Why? Because just look at this this particular histogram. Okay, let me rub the clutter here. Okay, so see, I am not sure okay, looking at the size of looking at the size of the bin, you can say I can tell you that this particular bin is, or the frequency of this particular bin is bigger than that of the other bins. Okay, for example, you can tell. But see, this is very simple. You can say histogram. You can have multiple multiple charts like that. So whenever it happens, then you are not able to distinguish if the size is width is very less and you have more number of bins in the picture, then you are usually confused. Here I have listed for 2, for rest I have not listed. Okay, so you have to go ahead and see, okay, here, and then you have to think about it, how much you can say in comparison, how much it contributes to the whole thing. You have to calculate it. Okay, so in a way, if we convert it into relative frequency, okay, instead of frequency, then it may tell us that how much contribution that particular bin as a frequency gives to the overall frequency of the data, or overall data points. You understand what I'm trying to say? Like, okay, I'll repeat what I'm trying to.
You mean to say that it's basically the contribution?
Yes.
I mean, in other words.
Yes, contribution. So see, shape would be same, but if I change kind of the scale of the y-axis, then I may see that the contribution of this particular bin is what percentage of the total. You understand what I'm trying to say? Okay, so okay, here if you see, this is my frequency 8, 16, 12, 8 and 6. Okay, there are 5 bins, and these are the frequency of my bin. Now the sum I have calculated, and I have divided the sum into each of the frequency. Now I can see that the second bin contributes around 32% or 0.32 of the total frequency. Yes or no?
Yeah, yes.
That is nothing but my relative frequency. Everyone on it? Guys.
Can you explain once again, please?
Yeah, sure. No problem. I'll anyways explain, but I'm trying. Are you guys on it? What I'm trying to mean, at least. I'll repeat for sure. Okay. See, what is frequency? That is nothing but we are counting the number of appearance, right, of that particular interval. Yes. How many people fall between this particular interval, this particular interval, this particular interval, this, right or wrong? Correct? But we don't know. But we don't know. We are only considering the number. Frequency is nothing but the number, right? Now we don't know 16, if I give you, okay, if I give you this particular number as a frequency, can you tell me how much it contributes to the total? No, you cannot tell me only by looking at this. But if I give you 0.32 as a relative frequency or 32%, then you can tell me that this particular bins contributes to the 32% of the total frequency.
Okay, so we can say that relative frequency is like representing the frequency in terms of percentage to see their contribution for.
Yes, in a way, yes. Fraction or percentage, interchangeably.
Okay.
But if you consider fraction, the sum would be 1. If you consider percentage, the sum would be 100%. Is it clear, guys?
Yeah, for me.
That is the only use of it. Okay, so we use frequency also, relative frequency also, just that relative frequency in addition to, see, but there is one drawback of relative frequency also. Okay, if I give you 0.32, you cannot tell me how many people fall under that category. Yes or no?
Yes.
Right. So interchangeably, both has their own advantage, disadvantage. Wherever we are only interested in knowing how much it contributes to that particular interval, then we will use the relative frequency. And whenever we are interested in knowing the exact number of people that fall under that criteria, then we would be using frequency. Understood?
Yes.
Yes.
Anyone who wants me to repeat again, or any point which you think is not you have not understood?
Dhruv, one thing, like while converting to relative frequency, here we are dividing it by 50. So it's like every time when we need to convert a frequency to relative frequency, forgetting the percentage distribution, we need to divide it by 50.
No. So what is this 50? Okay, this I was going to discuss it next, but before that, anyone has any doubt? Okay, I haven't discussed that how to convert. Okay, I have just discussed about the use case of relative frequency and frequency. Is that clear? And then I can discuss how to change it.
Yes, it is clear.
Okay, now you have a doubt about how to convert it. Just now we discussed that we want to see the contribution of a single frequency in overall frequency, right? What is that overall frequency? That is nothing but the sum of frequencies. How many total number of points? And what is sum of frequency? That is total number of points. Yes or no?
Okay. Yeah. So total is 50. That's why we are counting.
Total data point is 50. If you want to count it individually, okay. And if you want to take it in a way that you will add up the frequency, that will also, that will also sum up to 50. Why? Because frequency is nothing but the number of points under that particular interval. So if we count the number of all the number of points within all the interval, we will get the sum. Yes or no?
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say is, say we have 50 data points, or data points means, in example we took, I have interviewed all of 50 people who are right now, you guys who are attending my class. Okay, so each data point represent one weight, correct? One weight each data point. Okay, now two ways to get this particular sum. One way is I will count how many total number of data points is there, so I can say 50. Okay, other way is we have already created the bins. Okay, so we have already created the bins, and the frequency, obviously frequency denotes how many data points within this interval, how many data points within this interval, and there is no data point which is included in two of the intervals, right? No duplication is there. So if we add up the frequency, then also we'll get the total number of points. Yes or no, guys?
Yes.
What I mean to say is, people who are weighing between 100 to 110, say for example there are 8 people, those 8 people have already been counted in this. They won't get repeated under any of the intervals. Yes or no? Their weight won't be in between these, correct? Similarly, people who are weighing 110, yes, one confusion was there, where to consider 110. We have also solved that. Now there is no duplication. Yes, now there are 16 people here, 12 people here, 8 people here, 6 people here. Now if I will calculate, add these two, I'll get the total data points. Yes or no? And now once we get the total data points, and if I have to calculate how much this frequency contributes to the total data points, total number of data points, then obviously I have to divide. Yes or no? And by the way, okay, so this was 0.32 is not you can say, if you see in a way, okay, so 0.32 here gives the relative frequency. That means that is the frequency or related to the total data points. Okay, so total data points. You understood what I'm trying to say, or how we converted it?
Yes, very clear. Yes.
Okay. Now, if I give you any any frequency distribution table or histogram, can you convert it into relative frequency table or relative frequency histogram?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. My next question. Do you know the difference between the frequency and the interval in histogram?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know the sum? How is it calculated? There are two ways, any one of which you can adopt. Okay. My next question, how to calculate the relative frequency? By dividing the total sum into frequency. Yes or no?
Yeah.
Okay. Someone was asking some question.
Here, Dhruv, one question I have. So
your voice is very unclear. Please come again. Yeah.
Can you hear me? Is it okay?
Not okay, but
Hello?
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, what I was asking is that, right? So in this case, the calculation, the relative frequency which we are making, right? It's, for example, it's a frequency occurring as a 8, right? So the sum we are taking, the data point is 50. So we are getting as a fractional number is 0.16, for example. For example, in the case of data point is huge, for example, 1000. If it is coming as 1000, when it goes for 8 calculation, when we do it, the relative frequency goes into zeros, right? That may be one of the drawback, right? So how do we encounter that?
Yeah, so that we cannot do anything about that. Okay, there is no way to encounter that, is what you are saying, right? So relative frequency in a way needs to add up to 100%. Okay, so if your bin, okay, so for example, if your relative frequency in a way is going very less, okay, so that is, yes, that is a drawback of relative frequency. Obviously the fraction, or you can say the percentage value, will go very less. Okay, so the bins becomes invisible. Okay, but that is the way. Okay, so that simply denotes that, okay, so relative frequency tells us what is the contribution. That simply means that the contribution is negligible of that particular interval. That's all.
Yeah,
We cannot
should we, yeah, understood. So should we ignore that those percentage also? So the overall that our figure is going into that maybe deviates from that, right? So even should we negligible, or should we adapt? Should we
no,
accept
we
that as
cannot
a,
ignore. No, we cannot ignore that. Okay, we don't see. As a data scientist, we are not the one who will take the decision based that if we have to ignore or not. It is the business manager, or you can say the clients, who will tell you whether you are allowed to ignore that or not. You understand? Okay. Usually, for example, if I tell you that the things, for example, I'm just taking very intuitive example, like for example, if you are considering about gold mines. Okay, so usually if I'm now in the x-axis, I'm telling you about the depth in which the mining is happening, and only this depth will give you the amount of, you can say, or you can say the amount of what you can say, not the gold, but what you can say, anything which is negligible at a particular at a particular you can say mining. For example, from first 50, say for first 5-10 meters, the amount of gold that you receive is very negligible, right? Negligible. But that is important from mining perspective. Can you simply mine from at the depth without starting from this particular thing? So we cannot ignore that in that case. There are multiple use cases. I just took a very simple example, whatever came into my mind. You understand? So ignoring or not ignoring, we are not the one who will decide. It is the business that will. Okay.
Thank you.
And now this is how the comparison looks like. So this is your frequency and this is your relative frequency. So usually see the shape looks same, okay, but just you can say the scale becomes different from frequency to relative frequency. Why the shape looks same?
Because number is remains same. The frequency remains same for that particular bin.
Yeah.
Only thing is it is represented in
Higher the frequency, even higher the relative frequency, right? Lower the frequency, lower the relative frequency. Yes or no?
Yeah.
On the same
Yes.
scale, it is happening. Okay. Is it understood? 100% clear?
Yes, Dhruv. Yeah.